What's up, everybody? Welcome back. This is Borgo, and today we're going to test the CTP of Rage versus the CTP of Judgment on Thor. And this is the team that we're going to use. We're just going to use Beta Ray for the 60% increase of lightning damage, Valkyrie for the support. It really doesn't matter. We just want to see, we're just going to use the same team for both runs because a lot of people are always telling me that chain hit damage synergizes with Pierce, which I believe it does. But I think it really depends on how much Pierce you actually have on your cards. I have 2% Pierce on my cards, so take that into account when you're watching this run. I really think that the more Pierce you have, the more that chain hit damage is going to synergize with the Pierce. I think with 2% Pierce, it might not actually be the case. Now, we know that with Rogue, with 2% Pierce, that you actually will do better with the CTP of Judgment. Now, I actually took the CTP of Judgment off of her so I could test it on Thor. And what I did was I went ahead and did a run against Null using the CTP of Rage, and then I did another run using the CTP of Judgment. Now, there are going to be some differences in their stats. Obviously, because the Judgment offers extra all attack, we're going to have more energy attack in our details. So for Thor with the CTP of Judgment, we have almost 42,000 energy attack, and with the CTP of Rage, we had almost 38,000 energy attack. So you're looking at about 4,000 energy attack difference, which is quite a freaking bit. And something that I always thought was really strange about the Thor was the fact that he had this low HP pull. Why does the God of Thunder have a low HP pull? I just think that's absolutely ridiculous. But when you look at the detail page, for the CTP of Judgment, we have almost max attack speed, we have 42% crit rate, max critical damage, max zero defense, and max skill cooldown, and our dodge is at 56%. And there is a reason I'm pointing that out. With the CTP of Rage, all the stats are the same except for the dodge is maxed out, so we're gaining 20% dodge, and the critical rate is actually sitting at 62%. So the critical rate isn't maxed out, but it will be from Thor's Force skill. Now the thing about this skill is the critical rate buff is for 35%, and it lasts for 10 seconds. So if you have 40% critical rate, it's going to max out your critical rate. However, this skill is on a 12-second cooldown. So you won't always have the critical rate buff up, but you're going to have it up for 10 out of the 12 seconds, which is still quite a bit, right? It's still pretty good. It's going to be up for pretty much max out for the most part, but really you'd be better off to have his critical rate max out at all times. And the thing about Thor is he does have chain hit damage from his uniform, which is spectacular, right? You got the increased chain hit damage by 10% when attacking. And this is what supposedly synergizes with that Pierce. So you're thinking, well, if I had a CTP of Judgment that actually has more chain hit damage and it does the elemental damage, which Thor has, right? And we got the 200% damage proc, that this thing would actually do more damage and that it would be more consistent, especially since the CTP of Rage, the way that thing procs is you have a 20% chance of doing critical hits for the CTP of Rage to proc. Whereas with this obelisk, with the CTP of Judgment, activation rate, 10% chance when attacking. So when you're just attacking, you have a 10% chance of proccing, just like a normal damage proc. And I have to tell you all that the results were quite surprising. I was very surprised by what I saw, because with this obelisk, we're going to get a total of 20% chain hit damage, and we're gaining almost 4,000 energy attack. That's a big difference versus the CTP of Rage. So let's jump into the action and let's rock and roll. So since we have Valkyrie and about 30% ignore dodge, we're just going to run 3 ignore dodge strikers, which is going to give us a total of 90% ignore dodge, which should be more than enough. And I'm pretty much going to play both of these runs exactly the same. We just want to use Thor. We don't want to do any switching. We don't want to bring in any other characters. And I will be using the co-op the same way that I'm going to use for both of these runs. Now, something to note is with the CTP of Rage, because you have that extra dodge, you actually have better survivability. That is pretty massive, honestly, for Thor, because he has such a low HP pull, which, again, I think is just crazy. He can die pretty easy when you start facing these higher levels, which really freaking blows. I don't think the God of Thunder should play that way, but I guess it is what it is. And boom, here we go. We're going to run away. And, you know, there's always going to be a lot of variables in these runs, you know, whether the tornadoes hit me, how many times the CMBA cage comes up and grabs a hold of me. I mean, there's always going to be these variables, but when you see the stark difference between running with a rage and running with a CTP of Judgment with 2% of Pierce, you might be surprised, my friends. You might be surprised. I know I was blown away by this difference. I couldn't freaking believe it. And we just want to run through the first phase, and there we go. So 3 minutes and 37 seconds, he did the first phase, stage 7, with a CTP of Rage. Now let's see what he does with a CTP of Judgment. So the same strikers, everything's exactly the same. We're just going to try to play the same as well. We're going to run up. Now I can tell you one thing about the Judgment versus the Rage is it's way more consistent. The proc will actually trigger much more often, which actually kind of helps you a little bit because you can actually plan your procs. You can actually plan when you want to do your actual proc, which is pretty nice. So you're going to see me right now. I'm hitting the 4, I'm letting the attack buff build up, and then I go into the tier 3, right? And you can do a lot of damage with this. And, you know, we do have an extra 10% chain hit damage using the CTP of Judgment. And again, we have 4,000 more energy attack. And we finished the first phase by 3 minutes and 37 seconds with the CTP of Rage. And I was actually shocked. In fact, I was so shocked by the result of this run that I actually played this with the CTP of Judgment for almost an hour. I did it over and over and over. I thought, man, I must have just a bad run. I must have had a terrible run. There's no way this thing is worse than the CTP of Rage, especially from all that I've been hearing about how chain hit damage really synergizes with Pierce, and knowing that Rogue does better with the CTP of Judgment, I really thought it would be the same thing for Thor. But as you guys can see, it is not the case, my friends. It is not the case. I ran this thing for over an hour straight, over and over and over, doing this run with the CTP of Judgment. And by the way, it was much harder for me to keep Thor alive as well because I didn't have the max dodge. We weren't dodging as many attacks. You know, Thor just has that low HP pull, and it sucks. And it just really just blew me away. I thought for sure that the CTP of Judgment would smoke the Rage. But look at this. 3 minutes and 8 seconds. And this was one of my faster runs. 3 minutes and 8 seconds. He did it almost 30 seconds faster with a CTP of Rage. And after 1 hour of playing, this was my fastest time with a CTP of Judgment. So I'm pretty blown away. And I think what the deal is I think the more Pierce that you're going to have in your cards, I mean, I have 2% Pierce. I think the more Pierce you have, the more it's going to synergize with the chain hit damage. At least that's my suspicion. I don't really know this for sure, but after this test with Thor, that would kind of confirm it for me because I keep hearing how, you know, the more chain hit damage you have, the more it's going to synergize with the Pierce. Or maybe we just need more chain hit damage than 20% chain hit damage. Maybe just for Thor, it's better to have the CTP of Rage. Now, accounts that have lots of Pierce, maybe this would be completely different. Obviously, if you run with a mighty CTP, that's going to change things. That's going to skew things. But as far as the CTP of Rage versus the CTP of Judgment with 2% Pierce, I can confirm that Thor is way better with the Rage. Actually, the run with the Rage, I did one time, guys. I did it one time. Whereas with the CTP of Judgment, I had to do it over and over. One, because I kept dying, but also because I just couldn't believe that it was doing so much less damage. I was shocked. Just completely shocked. It really threw me for a loop. And the real bummer about this, at least with Thor, is this is a character, I mean, obviously we all love Thor, right? But we're really going to put CTPs of Rage mainly on our ABX characters because the Rage really shines there. Thor, unfortunately, is not an ABX meta. So are you really going to put a Rage on him? Obviously, if you love him, sure, why not? If you got extra Rages lying around, sure, of course, why not? But I'm going to be unequipping this CTP of Judgment. I'm going to slap it back on Rogue because I know it's way better on her, the CTP of Rage. But for Thor, the Rage is better. So this really just caught me completely off guard. Let me know in the comments how you're all feeling about it. Let me know if you're surprised that the CTP of Judgment actually did quite considerably less damage then the CTP of Rage. And I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you for watching. Y'all take care and have a good one.